Hi everybody and welcome back to the BizTech Academy. Today we're going to look at Excel and specifically 31 shortcuts that any Excel user should know. I've utilized these shortcuts using a real life scenario. So without further ado, let's have a look at that and move on to the shortcuts. Okay then, this is the workbook we're going to use to apply the shortcuts. It's a very basic spreadsheet and just simply lists a number of salespeople, the countries in which they reside, the cities where their homes are, and the annual sales they generated for the company in the last year. Again, the data is really irrelevant. We're just going to use this so that we can illustrate the effectiveness of the shortcuts. So if we start with shortcut number one, we're going to look at navigating around the workbook, or in this case, a set of data. And as you can see, the PC and Mac commands are similar. For a PC, it's Control and then any of the arrows, up, down, right, left. And then for a Mac, it's Command and the same with the arrows. So if you move over to A1, you can see here that if I use Control or Command down, it will take me down to the bottom of this data. If I then use Command Control and then right, it will take me to the right of the data. And again, if I use the same with the up arrow, it will take me to the top. And now again, Control or Command and the left arrow, it will take me back to A1. If we can just see this again with using column B, if we go to column B and use Control or Command and the down arrow, and then the up arrow, we go up and down the column, and again with the left and right if we're in a row. Really, really useful shortcut this if you've got lots of data to navigate and a large spreadsheet to get around. If we move on to shortcut number two, what you can see here is we're going to use shortcuts to select rows or columns. And for PC and a Mac, it's the same command. It's Shift Space to select a row and Control Space to select a column. So here I'll start with cell A17 and Alejandro. And if I press Shift and Space, you can see that the whole row is highlighted. Just one more time with Maria. And then with columns, as I say, it's Control Space. If we go up to cell B5 and then D5, each time Control and Space and it highlights the column. And again, combined with the previous shortcut, this is really, really useful if you've got a large amount of data and a large workbook you need to get around. Moving on to shortcut number three, and we're going to use shortcuts to insert and delete rows or columns. As you can see here, the commands are the same for a PC and a Mac. Just note that there's not two pluses here. The actual instruction is Control Shift and the plus sign, and then Control Shift and the minus sign to remove the row or the column. So if we start by highlighting a row and then press Control Shift and the plus sign, you can see that a row is inserted. And then conversely, if you then do Control and the minus sign, it will take it away. You can see this more clearly with a column. We look at column B, and again Control Shift plus, and it will insert the column, Control and minus, and it takes the column away. This is a far quicker way of inserting or deleting columns than right-clicking and then scrolling down to find the delete or insert option. Shortcut 4 shows you how to move a row or column and drag it into another particular space. And to do that, all you need to do is highlight the row or the column, and then once it's selected, press the Shift, move your mouse over to the edge of the row or the column until you see a hand sign, the cursor changes to a hand, and then just drag it to where you want it to go to. You can see here this happening with the row, and then we'll just do this with a column if you can see the hand change, and then just drag column B across to replace column C. Very useful shortcut if you want to move columns or rows around without inserting and then cutting and pasting. Shortcut 5 relates to the Goto menu, and as you can see here, the shortcut command is actually the same for both the PC and a Mac, that being Control G. If you press Control G, what happens is the Goto menu comes up, and from here you can choose any cell or any range you want to go to, and it will go automatically there. So for example, here we'll press A1, and then we'll press OK, and it takes us straight to A1. If we do it one more time, Control G, replace the current cell A16 that's in there to C10, and then as you can see, directly takes you to C10. Okay, that's the first 5 shortcuts done, and that's the navigation really. We're going to now move on to some more shortcuts and generally some more interesting stuff. So I've grouped shortcuts 6, 7, and 8 together because they really relate to text changes or text formatting. We've got bold, italics, and underline. And as you can see here, if we highlight the headers, name, country, city, and annual sales. As you can do, you can go onto the home ribbon and click under where it says bold and italics and underline. You can just make those headings bold, underlined, and italic. If we just undo that though, you'll find that it's far quicker and far easier if you're doing this a great deal to use the control functions. And as it says here, for both Mac and PC, it's both the same. Just Control B for bold, Control I for italics, Control U for underline. And it's as easy as that. Okay, shortcuts number 9 and 10. And I've grouped here the two shortcuts of undo and redo. And as you can see here, for a PC, it's Control Z to undo and Control Y to redo. And for a Mac, it's Command Z for undo and Shift Command Z for redo. And what we've got here is that we've got our headings here with bold, italics, and underlined. And I'm just going to press Control and Z 3 times to undo both the underline, the italics, and the bold. I'll just then do Control and Y to redo it. And you can see then it just reiterates the 3 commands that I've just undone. And then quickly I'll just undo them again because I don't want them highlighted in that format for the next shortcut. Shortcut 11 is the shortcut to open the format menu. No more needing to right click and then try and scroll down and find formatting. You can do this by simply pressing Control 1 on a PC or Command 1 on a Mac. What we'll do here is we'll highlight those headings again, press Control 1, just drag this down, and then we'll make the fill for the headings dark blue, and then the font white, and press OK, and there you go. You can see it changes the format without having to go through the hassle of trying to find it on a drop-down menu. Let's do this one more time with the sales numbers. Highlight the range, highlight the full column of numbers, press Control 1 to open up the format menu, accountancy, let's reduce the decimal places to 0, and then press OK. And then we have the sales numbers all reflecting financial numbers. I've grouped shortcuts 12, 13, 14 and 15 together because they're all related to a copy and paste. What we'll show you is a shortcut for sort of standard copy and paste, something we use every day. We'll also show you the lesser known shortcuts of copy right and copy down. If we just highlight a range in the table that we've got here, obviously if we wanted to copy this and paste this across to another section within the workbook, we could simply go to the top left in the ribbon, press copy, go to the cell we want to paste it, go back up to the ribbon again and press paste, and it will copy and paste it. We know that. You can also highlight it again, and if you want to, you can right click, press copy, go across to the cell, and then right click again and press paste, and that's fine too. And if you're happy with using those methods, that's fine. But the most efficient and quickest way is if you highlight the range and then press Control C on a PC or Command C on a Mac, go across to the cell you want to paste it into, and then Control V or Command V on a Mac again to paste it. And if you get used to using those keystrokes, it'll be far quicker and far more efficient than the previous methods we just looked at. If we just look at the data we've just pasted and we look at Germany just as one example, if we wanted to copy Germany over from E16 to F16, of course we could use Control C and then paste it across with Control V, but that's 2 keystrokes. If you just wanted to paste into the right cell next to the original cell, so in this case F16, you click on that cell and then use the shortcut Control R, and that will just paste it straight away in. Again, if we look at Japan, we'll go 1 cell above, press Control R, and it copies Japan across. So you don't need to do Control C and Control V, just Control R will do it. If you again then look at Germany again, and we go down 1 cell, if you use the shortcut Control D, that will copy the cell directly down. So Control D again, and again, then we can just mess around and go across to the right and use Control R again. Control R and Control D are very, very useful if you get used to using them. Shortcut 16 is about copying below a range of data and using a drop-down menu to do that. Well, first of all, just get rid of this data that we copied across on the previous shortcut. And then if we go down to the bottom of the data range in column C, where all the cities are, and then press Control down arrow if you've got a PC or Option down arrow if it's a Mac, and you can see then Excel produces automatically a drop-down menu with all the list of the cities that are in the column above. And you can just choose one to input in the cell. Choose Manchester, for example, and it goes into the cell. use the shortcut again, and we'll just choose Chicago, and you can put it in there. And that's a very useful way if you have a lot of data in a particular column or a row, to be able to then select that data and just choose one of the many selections you have to add an additional row or column of data. Shortcut 17 is the repeat last action, and it's the same command F4 on both a Mac and a PC. What it allows you to do is do the same command as you did before instantly. So here we've just highlighted a cell with yellow, press F4 as many times as you want, and it will just continue to repeat that task. Another example would be if you wanted to insert a row. So for example here, we highlight the row, we shift control and plus sign, and then we just do F4 and continue to import rows. If we then delete the row and then F4 again, it will just continue to delete the rows. Very useful for repetitive tasks, and something that is rarely used, to be fair. Shortcut 18 is one of my favorite shortcuts, and that's the flash fill shortcut. And that's instigated by Control E on both a Mac and a PC. What we do here, we'll insert a couple of columns. And what we want to do is we want to break up the names Ethan and Johnson, or Sophia and Hernandez, the first and last names of each of these particular names. And to do that with flash fill, all you need to do is type the first name in to the first name column, and then press Control E. And look, it just breaks everything down and just takes the first word, or in this case the name. Same with the last name. If you take Johnson and then press Control E, it will just list and pull out all the surnames or the last names, which is such an easy way when you have such data. Another great example here, because it's not just the words that are in the box. You can use a particular style or a category. We'll use emails here. So we'll take the first name and then we'll just put a abc@abc.com, and then use Control E, and it will copy down all the first names, but then add to it @abc.com. So if you have a standard format of email, for example, that's a very, very quick way of creating that data. To me, this is an amazing and wonderful shortcut, and really underused, in my opinion. I've grouped together shortcuts 19 and 20, absolute cell locking and also autofill. They're not necessarily linked, but the way we're going to do this on this particular workbook is that we'll use them both at the same time. And as you can see, the absolute cell locking is F4, and I'll show you that in a moment. And for autofill, you need to change the cursor to a black cross. And again, I'll show you that in a second. We'll start by just inserting a row. And then what we want to do is calculate a commission of 5% on the sales. So we'll type in commission, and then we'll change the format of cell G1 to a percentage and input 5%. And then we'll put a formula together, which is simply the annual sales times the 5%. Now, when we do that, what you can see here is that the G1, which is the percentage, that needs to be locked, because when we copy this down, we do not want that to drag down with all the rest of the calculation and not calculate 5%. So to do that, we have to make it an absolute cell. If you don't know about absolute cells, please search on the channel. There is a lesson on those, but they are very important and a standard sort of a practice within Excel. The way you operate absolute cells is to put dollar signs around the cell references, so a dollar in front of the G and a dollar in front of the 1. And if you've got many of these, it can be quite complicated and confusing. One way of getting around that is by pressing F4 when you're on the cell. So here we'll just highlight it, and then you press F4, and F4 then will automatically insert the dollar signs and make this absolute cell. We'll just get rid of these decimal places. What we'll do now is look at the autofill function. The autofill function is a way of streamlining copying data down, especially when it's adjacent to other data like it is in this table here. Of course, what we could do, we could just copy this formula down. We could do our normal Control or Command C and then Control or Command V when we highlight the range. Very simple. Or we could just click on the cell and drag it down, but it can be a little bit messy sometimes when you do this. The easiest way is to use autofill. So literally just click on the formula, hover the mouse over the right-hand bottom corner of the cell until the cursor turns into a black cross. You see, I'll do this again. You can see it turns into a black cross. And then simply double-click it, and it takes that formula all the way down to all the adjacent cells in the range, and it's copied. A wonderful shortcut. Shortcuts 21 and 22 are all about creating a new file and saving it. And the reason we've got these included in here is, one, because they're useful shortcuts, and secondly, in this model here, we have this data now analyzed, and this is our master data. We want to save it as a new file, or copy it over and save it as a new file, so that we can do some separate analysis that we can send over to our boss. And we want this document not to include all the formulas and the detail that we have in here. So to create a new file with a Mac, it's Command N, and with a PC, it's Control N. So we'll just do that now, Control N, and you can see a new file comes up. We'll just drag this across and make it the right size. And then we need to save this document ready for changing. So all we need to do then is either press Control S on a PC or Command S on a Mac, and that will then open up our saving window. We'll just name the file as shortcut tutorial. We'll put it into our documents folder, press save, and now we have a new document that we saved ready for adding to and putting data in. Shortcut 23 is a simple shortcut, and it's called Select All. It's Command A on a Mac and Control A on a PC. And all it does is highlight all of the data in a range. So if we go back to our original file, we click on our data and press Control A, and you can see it just highlights all of the data that we need to cut across over to our new file. Shortcut 24 could have been used above, but it's basically the opposite to the copy. It's cut, and it's Control X on a PC and Command X on a Mac. And unlike the copy function, it actually removes data and puts it into another place. So here you can see we've pasted over this data that we've had in our master file to our new file. It's in the middle of the workbook, and we want to place it into A1. So we'll just have it all highlighted as it is, press Control X, move to A1, and then Control V for the paste. And you can see now it's moved to the top corner of the workbook. But what you can see here, as it has been transferred across, is that it has an error. And that error is because we've cut across a formula, and the formula does not copy across into this particular workbook. So what we need to do is we need to go back and copy this particular column, column G, and paste it over as a value. So we've just got the value and not the formula into the fields. To do that, we'll move on to shortcut 25, and that's the paste special menu. And as you can see here, you can bring up the paste special menu by just putting Control-Alt-V on a PC or Command-Control-V on a Mac. And it's just a quicker way of bringing up the paste special menu. So here what we'll do is we'll highlight all the data we want in this particular cut across. This is the calculation or the commission range. Go back to our new file, and we'll click on the top of the cell, and we'll press Control-Alt-V to bring up the paste special menu. And now we'll press values, click on OK, and there we have our values. We double click, you can see now they're just values. A useful shortcut. We'll remove the 5% because we don't need that now. We've just got hard-coded data. But what we do need to do is to make sure that who we send this to, our boss, understands what the commission rate is. So to do that, we'll use shortcut 26. We'll hover over and click onto the commission cell, G1, the heading, and then by pressing Shift F2 on either a Mac or a PC, it opens up automatically the comments box or the notes box. And here we'll just put in commission is set at 5%, and therefore we've notified our boss what that will be. And this is a useful shortcut because normally you'd have to right click and then go down and find the note or find the comment, and it can sometimes get a bit confusing. By pressing Shift F2 now, you know you can put in a comment with no problem whatsoever. For shortcut 27, we're going to add a filter, and this is just a simple way of adding a filter. You can actually highlight all the headers and put a filter in place, but there's a more simple way if you've just got one bit of data you want to filter. So for example, here we'll click on London, and then we right click on our mouse, and you can see at the bottom filter, click on that, and then all you need to do is find filter by selected cell value, and then that shortcut then just gives you an immediate and instant filter on the cell that you've chosen, which is London here. And that's really, really useful if you want to do just quick filters to look at some data. We're going to clear this though, because what we actually want to do is we want to create this, use this data as a table, and then create an analysis and a basic chart. So we'll just clear the filter, and then anywhere on that data is just use shortcut 28, which is Control T, and that will convert the data into a table. You can see Control T highlights all of the data, press OK, and now you've got what is called an Excel table, which has it formatted in a certain way and has filters in place, which is really useful. We'll now filter, this time we'll choose Chicago. So just drop down menu, clear them, choose Chicago. And then what we'll do is we'll utilize shortcut 29, and we'll just highlight Chicago and annual sales and the commission data. And then we'll say Alt F1 on a PC, Option F1 on a Mac, and this will automatically input a basic chart for that data. And that's a very quick way of just quickly pictorially having a look at the data that you have. We'll just change the title here to Chicago Sales and Commission. And we have a quick bit of analysis there with a data table and a chart that's been created through shortcuts. Very useful. Finally, what we'll do is shortcuts 30 and 31. Because we're going to send this on, we'll date stamp it and time stamp it with some shortcuts. We'll insert 3 rows. We'll just put in a couple of headings of date stamp and time stamp. And as you can see here for Windows and a Mac, Control plus semicolon puts a date stamp in. And then we can add a timestamp on a Windows machine with Control plus Shift and semicolon, and on a Mac with Command and semicolon. So now we have a date stamped and time stamped analysis that which is hard coded on without formulas, and we can send this over for our boss for review. And that's it. That's 31 shortcuts in Excel. Hope there was at least a few in there that you didn't know. If there's any others that you want me to have a look at, by all means just add them to the comments, and I'll do a second tutorial if there's enough people requesting that. But in the meantime, if you can give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, that would be much appreciated. But apart from that, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.